boldly engaging the mindless propaganda of our time, apparently with reason. This is Rage of the Age.
This is Rage of the Age, and we have with us a man who has an irrational fear of umbrellas. He's also a U.S. Navy veteran who had become a serial entrepreneur. He's the founder of Up My Influence, which was created to help entrepreneurs grow audiences and influence without the crazy cost. He's also the host of the Thoughtful Entrepreneur podcast. I want to introduce to you today Josh Elledge. Josh, welcome to the show.
Philip, thank you so much.
So, Up My Influence. This is your 30-second elevator ride. What is that, man?
My 30-second. Oh, my 30-second. I thought you said my 30-second elevator ride is like, well, this is your 30-second attempt at creating something successful. So Up My Influence, what we do is we work with six-figure consultants doing well in their business, but they've kind of stagnated. Most of their business comes through word of mouth because they're good at what they do, generally provide higher level engagement. And we do one thing and we do it very well. We move them to seven figures. And it's interesting, as long as we've been doing this now, we've also now taken the approach that we don't do this based on a big consulting fee ourselves. We're actually looking for joint venture partners. There's some things that we're looking for, what makes a really great partnership. But, under the right circumstances, when we can find someone that's a good fit for us, we'll work as an investor basically and say, okay, well, our job's to fill up your sales schedule forevermore. And we'll do that based on commission. But again, it's refreshing, I got to tell you, to be able to do it in this way, because now we get to decide, who we really want to work with. And, culture fit's number one. I realize it's more than 30 seconds, but in a nutshell,
yes.
we can go very in depth into what consultants are doing wrong. Anyone who's marketing today, I could tell you 95% chance you're doing it wrong based on, I've been a consumer expert now for 14 years studying and leading consumer behavior, and consumers don't want to be sold to. And it doesn't matter if they're Joe consumer or a decision maker with a successful company or a business founder. Nobody wants to be sold to, but yet that's what most people are doing.
Well, I haven't studied any of what you've said for 14 years, much less a year. And I think I've already figured out that people don't want to be sold to.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, you look at where trends are going, and, there's some really good work that's been done on this area. I think Marketing Rebellion by Mark Schaefer is a really good book. Clicksand is another one. And again, you just ask yourself, do you like seeing ads? Do you like it when someone's trying to sell to you? How do you respond? Do you engage? Do you like, oh yeah, take my money? I mean, we don't really care for that. Right. And so, even beyond the jab, 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 right hook kind of mentality, like if we kind of know that right hook is coming, our guard is up and we're just like, no, thanks. I don't need the jabs. Like I really think that, as a business owner, just philosophically, when you wake up in the morning and your first thought is, who am I going to sell to today? I realize what it's like when you need money, because I've been there many, many, many times. But when you shift to the position where your mindset is focused on who can I serve today, as opposed to who can I sell today? And I know some people are going to kind of roll their eyes at that because they don't believe me, but at some point you will, and you'll get it. Because when you're running around thinking that you got to sell to people, everyone's got their guard up around you. It's like being that obnoxious guy at the bar or a networking party who just like instantly goes into sales mode, or like even when they're not immediately, it's coming, because they're like, hey, do you want to get together to discuss your IT services, or you want a free white paper, or you want to watch this webinar, or you want my free amazing, 3-part video series delivered via email? Just opt in here. Like we all know what you're doing. So, if that works for you, okay, keep doing it. And you sell to people like yourself, okay, keep doing it. But I could tell you, by and large, particularly if you want to sell to people been around the block a little bit, maybe baby brand new entrepreneurs, you might be able to fool. And I say that word fool I know I realize I'm being a little hyperbolic, but so people are probably scratching their head going, well, shoot, Josh, what do I do then? Like, how do I get business? Don't worry. I got good news for you.
Well, I remember my brief interlude with sales. It was as a car salesman. You know, I don't share that often, but I was that guy, and we had daily exercises and classes and vignettes we would have to practice on how to close that sale and to target every little, to find their hot button, they said, their weakness, and press it and push it and not let them leave and get them in the car. There was all these rules they had, and it was frustrating. I mean, I didn't last long there because I didn't enjoy it, much less the customers didn't enjoy it. And everyone knew what I was doing. That's
totally. And it's
crazy.
really uncomfortable. And so to the consumer, I mean, just, again, for Savings Angel, my other company, which I founded 14 years ago, getting on 14 years. Wow, in January. It's, studying and leading in consumer behavior, and consumer skills and, kind of hacks and like how to save and earn money, much more efficiently. This should give you a clue what Philip, what you were just talking about. If you walk into a car lot and you think that you have the advantage, you don't. Like, this is what car sales folks do. This is their life. Their life is to get you to buy that car. Like, they know everything about how to move that transaction along very efficiently. So, there's so many people who have had that frustrating experience. They go to a used car lot or whatever, and they feel the hard close come in, and they're like, and then they back off. But yeah, so, in terms of like buying cars, just a little side note here. I love some of the modern tools that we have today. But if you're not using technology at your next car transaction, you're really missing out.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And certainly don't get sold on that True Coat, man. and the underbody thing, all that stuff, please.
What you do, you don't do for a fee base. Like, here's our service, you pay, we'll do whatever advertisement. Hopefully you'll get some leads. Who knows? Right? This is a different, you're considering this like not considering, you're kind of going at a relational approach. So how does that work without the fee service stigma?
Well, it like I said, it has to be kind of a special kind of person where we believe, I mean, there's a few things, right? So they need to have really good culture fit. Like, we don't work with sharks. If you believe that people are just numbers and you're a one call closer kind of person, it's not going to be a good fit. We're going to say no. Also, again, the folks that we work with, they should have a higher ticket type engagement. We need to make sure that there's enough budget, because we're going to be looking for about, once we get past the build out phase where we do a little bit more aggressive share, then we're basically working for about 15-20% commission. And so, there's that. And then they need to be able to scale. So, if it's someone who's like, well, I just, I want to sign up 3 people this year. And so unless that's like $100,000 sale, then, we want to work with people that want to keep growing and scaling. So, but yeah, how we're doing this, is that we leverage 3 things. Number 1 is authority. And that's another thing too, is I can't really work with someone that has no authority, because what I know is, we can make a ton of introductions, but those folks are going to check you out. And if they check you out and on a scale from 1 to 10, you're a 3 and they're a 7, they're not going to engage. It's just, we're in a swipe left, swipe right world. And so they're going to look at things like your branding, your social media, just indicators of authority. And if it's not looking real good, then that's another thing that's kind of tough. So you got to have good authority. And, don't worry if you're newer in business and it's not really there yet, like, you'll get it. Just, you want to devote a couple hours every single week to asking yourself, how do I look on the web? So it's kind of like, if you're in a dating profile, it's like, well, what's the most important thing to attract lots of great people to engage with.
Younger
It's like, man, that
pictures.
profile needs to be, that profile needs to be amazing. Now,
Right.
you got to work with what God gave you in terms of like, what your skill set or what your background is in this case. But you certainly want to max it out. You want to present your best foot forward. So,
Right.
So authority is really important. And then as well, and I kind of mentioned this already in terms of culture fit, but in terms of the second principle of like, and by the way, these are just general principles on how sales gets done today. Number 2 is extreme generosity. And I recommend a book called The Go-Giver or The Go-Giver Sells More by Bob Burg. And again, people know what's in your heart. They can tell. You're not fooling anybody. And if you're all about you, then people will feel it. They'll know it. Like, look, I've been doing media training for, probably good 10 years or so, helping other people when they get on TV. And, I've worked with some tough, attorneys, for example, it's like, okay, let me tell you all the stuff all the vibes that you're giving off. And so to kind of really help them, just make sure that, they're in a position where, again, you could be watching like a TV show and let's say it's a reality TV show, and there's going to be people you like, and there's going to be people you don't like. And what is it about them? Why don't you like them? Oh, I don't know. Like, I just get a weird whatever, right? Yeah. I can tell they're not nice. They're not nice people. Right. And so, so we just want to be mindful of that. So again, be generous because that's what works. Stop gating everything just so you can snag that email address or that phone number. Like, make it easy for people to spend time with you because time is the most valuable commodity, I think, or most valuable thing that you could get from your audience. If you can earn their time, you can earn their trust and you could build that relationship. And so, that gets to number 3 in how sales is done today. And that's leveraging platform. Anyone can do this. And a platform might be, doing live streaming on social media. It might be a podcast. It might be, recording video, recording audio, interviewing someone for a blog. But, I find that giving people and celebrating other people people tend to like that. It's amazing how many people you can get to show up to an awards show. So really your job should be, how much good can I do in the world? If you want to build relationships, well, you're going to lead. And, it's like, even when you're dating, like, you're going to be courting, you're going to absolutely show the best version of yourself when it comes to other people. And you're going to be insanely generous with your attention and your time and, patience or whatever the thing is, right? If you're on a first date and you really like this girl, but then she has this annoying habit of like smacking her food when she eats, you're going to overlook that. Hopefully, like, if you really like her or vice versa, I'm usually the gentleman. So, but that's an example. Right. And so, we're just going to be, we're going to try to do good in the world, make a positive impact. And as a result, people are going to love you for that.
I know the thing you mentioned about time resonates with me because I've noticed like the person you characterize a little bit, like trying to make the instant sale or trying to get something and working the room, I guess you could say, and passing out cards and setting up seminars and whatnot.
Yeah.
And they're not very good at respecting others' time. They come in, dive bomb, and then they're at the next person, and then there's the next person, and on the receiving end, you're like starting to, hey, where you from? And next thing you know, they close and move on. It's like, what just happened there?
That's so icky.
Yeah,
I've been to a couple. Yeah, I've been to. Man, there was a couple, like, the in East Orlando, there was like a business owner mixer, and it was just a bunch of salespeople trying to sell to each other. It was so I left there and I needed to take a shower. I just felt so awful. I tend to be a little bit, of an empath. So like, I kind of feel stuff too. And so when someone's being disingenuous, I could tell, like, yeah, they don't really care about me. Like they just kind of care about selling their thing. Yeah. I mean,
Right.
again, we all know what you're doing. Some of us are more aware of it. Other people might be unsettled and not be able to put our finger on it.
Right.
But trust me when I say the consumers have never been savvier. They've never been more cynical, and they've never been more protective of
Yeah.
themselves. From
And that being
told at.
said, then how do you sell without selling? I mean,
Yeah.
because I mean, in the end, I do want to sell, or
Yeah.
I want to close that deal. So how do you tiptoe that? How do you
Well, I'll
approach it?
give you a great example. So, my neighbor who owns a landscape company, I like them. Like we're friends. And I said, well, why don't I hire you guys? And she goes, well, we're more expensive. We're like $20 more a month, for basic, we just have our lawn mowed or whatever. And I said, I'm okay with that. Like, I like you guys. Like
Right.
we all want to do business with people that we like. And so how do you now this is going to raise more questions for people, right? Because they're like, well, so I'm just going to get a bunch of people to like me. Yeah, pretty much. And if you can do this, think about this from a perspective. Let's say you're a realtor. I can give you lots of examples, by the way, and why this works. Let's say you're a realtor and in your local market, you have, and by the way, all this has to do with where consumer behavior has evolved to, and also the technology and tools that everybody has now to be your advocate. So you want to be an amazing giver. You want to walk away from every engagement with people going, wow, that wasn't for me, or it's, not for me, or, not now, or whatever. But I think that's a really great idea for the right person. Okay, if you're a realtor and you have, let's say 500 people in your local community who, if you were to ask them, who's a realtor that like and trust, and you had 500 people that, oh, absolutely, Philip Sharp. He's stand-up guy, very honest, going to work really, really hard, very good at what he does. Highly recommend him. If a realtor and you get to that point, it's game, set, match. You're basically set for life at that point. Because what you want to do is you just want to get a big enough pool of people to think of you and do your selling for you. And I'll give you a great example. So for us, we tried advertising. It was a miserable experience for us. I believe today that advertising is the tax you pay for being unremarkable. That was the founder of Geek Squad who said that. So then we moved to expanding our platform in a way where we were just going to do a lot of nice stuff for our dream customers. And so, we have a decent social media. And so we wanted to find out, what would they want? A podcast interview, we do video. I mean, we do all kinds of stuff. We reach out to people that we'd love to work with. And we just, we just do nice stuff for them. We say nice things about them on social media. We create little video interviews. We do podcasts with them. Like we leave positive reviews for people. Like we do a ton of nice things for folks. And so people, as a result, like people really like us. And this didn't happen overnight, but and then we were also using LinkedIn Sales Navigator effectively to be able to reach out and extend relationship opportunities where it's can we do something nice for you? But what we found out after 6 months of really working this hard, Philip, is that we didn't need to do any outreach anymore. Since November of last year, now this may change, but so far it's been now, as of when we're recording this, 13 months, and we have done zero outbound. Everything we do is 100% inbound, and we have more than enough business. I mean, more than enough business. That's why, we're at the point now where we get to be pretty picky on who we work with, is just because of that volume at which, I feel comfortable in handling at this phase.
Yeah. So to recap, to be liked and to be nice actually matters.
Yeah, believe it or not. I mean, it sounds like a novel concept, and I know that flies in the face of a lot of marketing and sales gurus. But what I could spend some time here about why they sell what they sell. They sell what they sell because it doesn't work, so that you'll keep buying their stuff. They're in it for themselves. If they sold a product that actually worked right out of the gate, they would be like me, and they would say, well, hold up, I want to work with the right people, and I want to do lots of partnerships together because my stuff really works.
Right.
We also, like, we don't sell anything to junior level entrepreneurs. Like, if you're early stage, you're not yet six figures in business, I have nothing to sell you. But I've got, my heart and my soul. I'm going to bust my guts, based on all the content that we produce to help you get to the six-figure territory. I don't know. Like, I believe that everybody, should get paid for what they're worth or whatever. But philosophically, I just have a tough time. Like, I've always been like, Up My Influence wouldn't exist if it wasn't for my work in our local entrepreneurial community. So I've done working with the SBDC, veteran-owned, minority-owned, women-owned businesses, just serving on boards, pro bono workshops and mentoring and that sort of thing. That's what led to it. That was crazy, because that doing that free work, that service, led to opportunities. Wasn't overnight, but it led to new opportunities. I heard someone say, where you plant your seeds, not necessarily where you'll reap your harvest. It will come to you. You can't keep on showing up as a nice person and a giving person and not have it come back to you some way. Like, someone's going to return the favor. It's the law of reciprocity, as Mama would sing in Chicago.
You bring something very interesting, because you're saying, like you said, I'm if you're not six figures, we just don't work with you. It's
no. It's not that I won't work with you.
It's not like
I don't have anything to sell you. I'm just gonna serve you pro bono.
I only mix with this certain crowd.
No.
I just want to put it out there. You've had 6 failures of startups
yes,
before you got to where you're at. So what you're saying is, it's not, I only work. You see that there's a track that people have to progress to, and you've actually walked that progression, right? Yeah.
Where this really stems from is I just don't, this is the consumer advocate in me coming out. Like, I see a lot of instant overnight gurus pop up, and they're selling stuff to business owners, and there's just no experience behind what they're selling. Right. They're just repackaging with someone else's knowledge and just trying to make a quick buck. The consumer advocate in me sees that and goes, that's a little scammy for me.
Right.
Again, I'm a free market kind of guy. But then again, I believe that disclosure and awareness and education is the job that we should all have. And so I just want to make sure that, anyone can sell anything they want to you, but you also have the right to be a very, very proactive consumer and be able to research and figure things out really, really quick, so you don't get taken for a ride. So the reason I say I don't have anything to sell you is, that gets down to one of our core values, is democratization, where we believe that everybody has a right to, everybody has a message that could positively impact the world. And so if I can help them in a way where, just time-wise, I wish I had more hours in a day. But as is, my schedule's pretty maxed out every single day. I can't work individually one-on-one with anybody. But I can create content and create resources and give away stuff. And I'm happy to do that. And there's no sales pitch at the end, because, I think that when you do well in business, it is your responsibility to give back. Like, so this, for me, Philip, is kind of, I know you're a man of faith, and, this is, for me, kind of the part of the law of the tithe. It's like, And I think that that's really important for all of us to always be saying, what's my increase and what can I give, or what's my moral obligation to give, and why would I do that? Well, I would do that because if we have a bunch of folks that are doing well and they're not generous, then you end up with a situation where you got a lot of haves and have-nots. And so those who are blessed, like those who, have worked really hard and earned some things, take 10% of your time, effort, resources, whatever that percentage is for you, but make it a part of your company's mandate to help other people get where you are. I just think I think it's a benevolent, good thing to do.
You're listening to Rage of the Age. Rage of the Age. Politics, religion, economics, and history with a conservative bend.
I think that's a good policy to have. Not policy, philosophy of life to live by.
Yeah.
You have that. What can you do with it? What can you do that's positive, right?
Yeah, you will feel more, along with that generosity, you will feel better about yourself. You'll feel more successful, and you will naturally attract more because people will say, that Josh Elledge is a good guy. He's, I could tell I don't really need this. I don't want this, but I could see that he's giving this stuff away. He's making a good faith effort to just be a nice, generous person. Your audience, your social media audiences will build a lot faster. And you'll probably end up making more sales at the level that maybe you really want to.
Let's talk about then how you got to where you're at. Cause it's not like you were born and then, a couple classes, boom, here's Josh Elledge. Here's his system. here's his up my influence and it's working well. You have been blessed with so much that you share with others, but there was a process to this. You had to put in the hours, the work. You've had many failures.
Oh my gosh. So my first, if you don't count, lawn mowing businesses and selling candy in the 8th grade, my first business venture out of while in college was mobile DJ business. Never really made much money with that. Then from there was a string of other business failures. Eventually I started a small town newspaper. This is a while back, and a blog before there were such things as blogs. And that ultimately ended up failing because I was afraid of selling, which is a whole different thing we could talk about, what selling is and, why that bothered me. But that led to pretty bad failure, lost a home, bankruptcy, and It sucked. It was horrible to go through. I felt like a loser as a husband and father going through that experience. But it was kind of like the refiner's fire because out of that, it kind of pushed me to be willing to do and learn the things that I was uncomfortable with. And so I kept pushing out that circle of comfort and I became more resilient. And my next business, I did all right. Like for 5 years, I worked in internet marketing, which was kind of new for me. I was an internet developer by trade previous, but then I really got into internet marketing and sales. And what I learned, the more I got into it, is that, again, it's not about fancy closing techniques. You have to lead in the relationship. I don't want to confuse this. Like you have to be a really great leader because when people hear your thing for the first time, they've never bought it. Like you've escorted, dozens, hundreds, thousands of people into buying your product previously. You do need to show them how that works, and you need to make it frictionless for them to keep moving forward in that. But ultimately, they can choose to opt out anytime. But anyway, that business, ultimately, I needed to make an exit, and I just stopped earning enough money for my family. So I started another company, and that was Savings Angel, and that launched January of 2007. And with that company, I built it, and our goal was to help consumers cut their grocery bill in half, and it worked. It worked really, really well. And so we said, okay, well, we're going to charge $20 a month or $5 a week or something like that. And So people started subscribing, and we would help them, so they'd give us $20 and we'd help them save, $300, $400 a month at the grocery store. So it after some time it took off, but like anything, people need to know about you. I mean, you have to, exposure is everything. And so for us, I didn't have any money for advertising. So I just started going on, reaching out to media, because as a journalist in the United States Navy, I wasn't necessarily very good at that, but I learned enough to know that it was at least potentially accessible to me. So I reached out to a local, matter of fact, the first radio station, JQ99 in Holland, Michigan, was the first radio station, contemporary Christian radio. And they showed mercy on me. And I said, hey, I don't have any money, but I'd love to do this segment. And let's help people save some money, donate, that sort of thing. So I went in and did the segment. And what they didn't realize is that I had a heating bill due that Friday, and I did not have the money for it. And so I went in on that Tuesday morning, did the radio segment, and I earned enough on that very first radio segment in those little $20 subscription for first month that I could pay for my family's heating bill on that Friday.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow. So, and then it just kind of up from there and eventually became a 7-figure a year company.
Man, but all through the work of perseverance.
Yeah, because that radio segment turned into syndicated radio, and with Clear Channel or iHeart and Sinclair and some other radio groups. Then I started doing a newspaper column, and then that turned into a syndicated newspaper column that I've been writing now for over 12 years. And then TV, and that turned into syndicated TV. And TV alone, I've done probably close to 800 TV segments by now.
Man, no wonder you look
I still do them. I did one on Monday.
Hey, you brought up something that really perked my ears, because earlier you're talking about customers are savvy and they don't really appreciate the typical sales pitches we've been used to for probably a century now. I don't know. It's we instantly detect it, we resist it, dodge it, despise it. But then you talked about the fear of selling.
Yeah.
And to me, that's kind of linked, because I don't like to be sold to.
Right.
So the idea that I have to sell my stuff to someone else is almost like, well, I can't do that because I don't want to sell it. So, how do we, that's probably something to conquer, I think, to make the sale we need to make. Yeah.
So the reason I didn't initially want to sell is because I was afraid of rejection. Right. If I'm being very frank, like I didn't want someone to say no to my product, because then I would say, well, that means they're saying no to me. And, as a type 7 Enneagram, it just, or whatever is in my personality, my insecurities, right? I would say that oh, I can't deal with that negativity in my life or whatever, if someone telling me no, when in fact, it has very little to do with you. It's just like, it's not really a fit for me. And that's, if someone says that, man, you got to trust them, like, and say, yeah, I can see what you mean. Yeah. Now if there's something that they haven't yet considered, you can go ahead and share that with them. Not as a way of, I think basic objection handling is pretty important. But do it in a very, transparent way. And so I'm a big fan of, as you learn objections, try to pre-handle that in your content better. Have FAQs where you put every single objection that you've ever heard, and then just say, here's what some people say, but here's what they find out, or here's, I feel like, here's what I know how you feel. I felt the same way. Here's what I found. But again, just go ahead and, ultimately people are going to look at that, just like, okay, I see your point of view, but it's still a no for me. No problem. Totally fine. So we have an obligation to educate and inform, inspire, entertain, like make sure people have all the information, but man, they get to decide whether it's a fit for them or not. And your product is not for everyone. It really isn't. And as you get to realize that, and understand that amateurs convince and leaders sort. And I say sort, and I don't really like that word a whole lot because that implies that you're just kind of rifling through people.
Right.
But allow people to self-sort, I
Mhm.
think would be the better way of saying that. So
Yes.
leaders allow their audiences to self-select. That's a better way of saying that.
But the fear of sales is a real thing. I mean,
Oh gosh, yes,
most people I know in my life, it's not like I enjoy it either, but most people have, I would say, a fear of selling.
totally.
How did you overcome that?
I'll tell you, this is how you overcome it. What is the consequence of someone who needs your service or needs your product? What is the consequence of them not using your service? What might they do instead that would harm them or would keep them from reaching their goals? And you really need to keep that on the forefront of your mind. See, if there's someone right now who, when I'm talking with, and let's say they're spending like $1,000 a month on advertising, and they're like, Josh, it's just not working. I know exactly how you feel. I know why advertising doesn't work today. So I feel a moral obligation, and I feel urgency. So, for example, with Savings Angel, we have an avatar, and the avatar is Wendy, who's at the grocery store, and she needs to buy pull-ups for her kids, and she's looking at the price of pull-ups, and she's like, "Are you
Mm,
kidding me?
mhm.
$18 for this
Yeah,
package of pull-ups?" And meanwhile, I can help her get that same package of pull-ups for $4.
right.
Okay, if I don't act now, Wendy and her family are dealing with financial stress, and now they're fighting as a couple, and now they're in danger of not being able to pay their bills or losing their house or just going through all this needless stress. Philip, I have to act. And if I
Mm,
don't act, I'm potentially not owning what the skills and resources that I've been given. I feel like I'm kind of hiding it under a bushel.
mhm,
If I don't go out and at least let her know, look, here's how to do this for free, and just like da 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 da. And by the way, just follow my advice. Please do this. Now, if you need help, here's how my team and I would work with you and how we can help you out, and try to make things as fair as possible for people. And so but that absolutely, that urgency, that fear of the consequences of my inaction, that's
mm,
what keeps me
mm.
super engaged. Like, I have to do what I do. I don't
Yeah.
have a choice in this.
So that kind of ties in with the idea that you had earlier of serving. Selling isn't closing the sale. Selling is serving somebody.
Yeah, it's it completely. And so if you're outside focused and your concern really is the well-being of other people,
Mm,
that urgency will allow you to do the uncomfortable things because you care for that person. Like, if someone's really struggling, like, and you have the means to help them in some way, let's say how to paint, and you're walking by and you see someone painting their a door or something like that. You're like, oh man, they're gonna mess that up. They're doing it. That's a wrong. You can't use that kind of paint.
uh, yeah.
So if you know that, would you tell them? Well, I hope you would. Why? Because you just want to do good. Now, ultimately, and let's say that you own a paint store, right? And like, hey, look, it's up to them whether they want to buy paint from you, but at least do your part. Be a giver out there. And so, Philip, one thing that we really haven't talked about that I suspect that people are wondering is like, well, Josh, I just don't have enough people to talk with.
Mm,
I would imagine that that's probably a big concern, that maybe someone's been listening to our conversation and is like,
that's a good point. Yeah.
yeah, it's probably think, well, this is all great. Okay, help people, but I'm not help. Okay. So here's the thing: when your generosity is big enough, your lead gen is going to be probably the easiest thing in the world for you to do. But right now, your offer is just not that exciting. It's just, there's not enough what's in it for me. Like that's, what everybody's concerned about is like, what's in it for me? And so what can you give away that truly is that valuable? Now, selling an e-course for $6 or whatever, like that's not going to do it. Depending on who you're selling to, long form, giving away video series may or may not be valuable. It just depends on, does the person that you're working with have free time? Most decision makers with successful companies are very limited on free time. So you really have to be introspective. You have to do a lot of research to find out what is the thing that I can give away that will absolutely earn that time together. And I talked about platform earlier. I find that pretty consistently platform seems to work out all right. So, again, what's your best social media asset? What's your best audience asset? Are you willing to learn how to, podcast? Because I think podcasting is, it absolutely works. But again, don't you dare try to sell too quick in that relationship, because if you do, it's just gonna be a miserable experience for you. You're gonna be like, Josh told me all I had to do was start a podcast or whatever, and now I'm podcasting and I start selling to these people and then no one's buying. Okay, that's because you haven't. You got to nurture the relationship. You got to be willing to invest. Would you be willing to invest in that relationship for 3 to 6 months until they buy? Most hungry salespeople don't have that kind of patience. Like they don't. They're one call closer kind of people. But see, when you do this and you set it up and let's say you're talking with 10 people a week or 20 people a week. I mean, law of averages, if you close 1 out of 10%, that's pretty easy. And when I say close, I mean, it's the audience naturally, 10% of the audience naturally needs your product. Okay. So you just want to reach out and talk to as many people as possible, extend an offer where it's like, duh. Yeah, absolutely. And by the way, if people are telling you, nah, no thanks, or they're ignoring you or blocking you or ghosting or whatever, like you still haven't hit it. You got to keep on experimenting with what's the thing that you can give away. If you know how to do LinkedIn profile makeovers, for example, maybe you could offer to do that pro bono for people that you would like to work with and maybe do other work. These are just ideas, but like, what's the thing that other people are charging money for that you could give away for free, and be transparent with them. Just say, look, I'm gaining some momentum here. I'm really good at this one thing. For us, there's been people historically up my influence, started by turning our clients into media celebrities. We don't do a lot of that work anymore, just because we've really kind of accidentally stepped into where we really realize our zone of genius. But we would reach out to very influential people and offer to build them a press kit for free. Yeah, it ends up costing me $150 in labor, plus some of my time. But for what the introductions that we got out of it, see, again, you get down to that law of reciprocity. People, you push on that lever enough, and people are going to be like, "What can I do for you?" Like, if you reach out to me and you do something nice for me, man, I'm going to find a way to give back to you. I've interviewed people on my podcast and they have a product and they're like, "Hey, can I send you a free demo unit?" I'm like, "Yeah, absolutely." If I otherwise even halfway like it, I'll make sure to promote that to my audience of over 120,000 people on social media. So you just never know. Like the worst thing someone's going to say when you offer to do something nice and so forth is, "Oh, no, thanks. I'm set there." And usually people will be very polite when they can tell that you're really being generous. So, that's, by the way, the law of averages. I forget who originally talked about that. You're the combined average. Jim Rohn maybe. You're the combined average of the 5 people you hang around with most. And if you want to up your average, the way that let's say you're a 5 and in business wise, And you want to get to a 7, so you want to network with more 7s. And so very simply, what you do is if you want, you just serve your way up. That's how you do it. I learned that, and it's absolutely a true principle.
Josh, I tell you what, you've really put out some really good wisdom today. Much of it learned the hard way.
All of it. Are you kidding? Yeah. What you have just heard over the past 45 minutes or so, thousands of mistakes in the making.
Exactly.
I've made them all.
Yeah. I tell you what, it's really awesome having you with us today, Josh.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Philip. I appreciate this.
You're listening to Rage of the Age. Rage of the Age. Politics, religion, economics, and history with a conservative bend.
For this essay segment, I want to first of all thank again Josh Elledge for talking with the program today. He's the type of guy that if I lived a little bit closer to him, I'd be like making excuses just like hang out with him for a while, because it's like he's just so easy to talk to. And we could probably yap for a few hours, time that he probably doesn't have to give to me. But it was really awesome speaking with him. And in talking with him, there's some things that just jump out at me that just make me think of all the people I've known in my life, that I've read about other people and watched the documentaries and everything. And he's got a good thing going with Saving Angel and Up My Influence, and he's really doing well with those businesses that he started from the ground up. Now, to the uninitiated, you would look at him and go, well, wow, that must be nice to, be so successful and to have a business like that. That'd be great. And, if only I had that opportunity. But as a reminder again, he has had 6 failures, by his count, I believe, and maybe we're miscounting. Like he said, not counting the lawn cutting, the lemonade sales, and all those other things, right? That he tried a bunch of things that did not succeed. Now, at what point do you stop and just not try? Is I guess what I want to kind of dwell on here for a moment for this episode on this essay is when you look at a lot of people who have invented great things or started these businesses that succeed, it's not like they showed up with a degree from some pedigree college, had a brainstorming session with their friends, and suddenly invented this amazing company that everyone loved overnight. It took work. It takes a lot of work. And a lot of people have gotten to where they were now and in the past, not because they're like an instant success hotshot, but because they're determined. They persevere. They put in the groundwork. They labor to achieve what they're trying to achieve. I mean, at what point would the Wright brothers decide, we've tried this too many times, we're never going to get this aircraft into the air? But they kept on trying. They kept pursuing it to achieve what they believed was possible. Not because they had this full-hearted wish, but because they saw that there's something there, that this is actually achievable. And they would go all the way from Ohio down to North Carolina, operating a bike shop. But then they're on this venture, they would take these trips and try to get this thing to work over and over again. At what point would you quit when they did not quit? Rockefeller, before he became, the big oil man that he was, he wasn't doing too hot in life. And, he was trying to scrape by and make ends meet for his family. But he pursued opportunities and kept pecking at it. There's all kinds of examples. Now, Thomas Edison comes to mind, of course. And, Tesla people don't get mad at me. But, they both do a lot. They both did a lot of work. They kept putting effort into this thing that they wanted to see come to life. Now, here's the truth. If they didn't do anything, it wouldn't have happened. If they gave up at the first point where, it didn't work, I guess we got to move on, then of course it wasn't going to happen. And I guess that's sort of my point. There seems to be a missing ingredient that's kind of emphasized today. There's a lot of idealistic thinking about business, and that's fine. You want that thing that drives you, want that motivation. You want that thing that you're trying to achieve. You have goals and dreams. Those are awesome, but you cannot divorce that from the reality of you got to put in the work. You have to be determined to see it through to the end. You may hit roadblocks. You might even fail flat out a couple times before you succeed. And again, the question is, at what point are you going to give up? Are you going to give up that one point right prior before you actually succeed in what you're doing? That's just kind of what I want to highlight today in this essay. So, I mean, it's not a big brain teaser, I know. It's just, to me, it's going back to simple basics of we live in a world of flashbang and, wow, you can be this and you can be that. But in the end, you're going to have to, you still have to work. Work is not divorced from success. It still has to happen that way. And it's the way it should be. That hard work and perseverance are a part of doing business. And I also love the touch, though, that Josh brings when he talks about, you know what, being nice is a good, positive trait to have. And I can imagine, some, naked capitalists out there, you're listening to this and you're like, Phil, you're supposed to be a conservative and you're making me cringe with this kind of, be nice stuff in business. And I hear you. I hear you. See, I'm for free economy, but I'm also for a fair economy. I ain't completely naked. I don't like monopolies because that is totally counterproductive to the idea of, capitalism. It becomes counterproductive at that point when you no longer have the competition. I believe in healthy competition. That's good for a market, right? But if you must be like cold-hearted about it and want to sink your teeth into some blood and draw it from the meat, and you're a red meat eater type of businessman, okay, fine. That's how you want to pursue it. Gotcha. But let me again point you to the old classics, the men who are known for creating grand monopolies and were very, well, let's say their business scruples may be questionable in how they achieved their goals, but they did it, right? I'm talking about Rockefeller and Carnegie, and they made just massive amounts of crazy money. That's just like insurmountably unthinkable for their day and age. And I want to say, even by comparison with today's dollars, it's like good luck beating those records, right? But these were men who were giving away all kinds of money for charities, for buildings and institutions. And even after Rockefeller died, for years, I don't even know if it's even ended really, but even long after he's gone, his money is funding things and these causes that he's paying to. So even they had this understanding of, I got to do something with all this money. What's the point of just having it if nothing good is accomplished by it? Now, if you want to be more cold-hearted about it, look, I understand, hey, it's your money. You have a right to do what you want with it. It's your private property. I believe that wholeheartedly. But if you look like Mr. Scrooge, all you are is the poster boy child for the socialists hiding behind every tree and every tech company waiting to come take your stuff. That's what you are. You're giving them every excuse. But if you're generous, you still make tons of money. You get to keep what you have, and people like you. Being liked does actually matter in the end. Do you want to deal with people who like you or people who see you as an enemy? Something to think about.
You've been listening to Rage of the Age. If you loved today's podcast, make sure to leave a review on the media you're listening through. Secure future episodes by heading over to rageoftheage.com and clicking the RSS feed button. Until next time, this has been Rage of the Age.